We've been hearing a lot about Israelis demanding their hostages' bodies back, but what about the Palestinians? Do you remember Steve Timon, the prison in Israel holding hundreds of Palestinians? And this prison was notorious for torture. Well, according to The Guardian, 135 bodies have been returned from Steve Timon, and they have been mutilated with many signs of torture. Why isn't anybody talking about this? Why is it just only about, we want the hostage bodies back, we want those bodies back, and no one is talking about the bodies that Israel is returning and the state that those bodies are in? Here's the story from The Guardian. At least 135 mutilated bodies of Palestinians have been held at notorious Israeli jail, says Gaza officials. 135 mutilated Palestinian bodies returned to Gaza by Israel were confirmed to have been held at Steve Timon, a detention camp already infamous for torture, deaths, and degrading treatment. Tags inside each body bag written in Hebrew identified the remains as having come from Steve Timon, where Palestinian detainees were held in cages, blindfolded and handcuffed, shackled to hospital beds, and forced to wear nappies. They weren't supposed to die in prison. Who's dying in prison? Why are you dying in prison? Why are they returning 135 bodies from prison? So one thing you could say, well, Kim, a lot of the hostages, the Israeli hostages, they died, and they're returning them back in body bags as well. That's because they were in a war zone, and Israel was bombing them, and they were being held in tunnels. They weren't being held in prisons. Israel's supposed to be the Western democracy in the Middle East. Israel's supposed to be, what we're fighting for, because they're just like us. And yet 135 bodies, mutilated Palestinian bodies, are being returned from their prison. Doctors examining the corpses in Khan Yunis reported horrifying evidence of murder, summary executions, and systemic torture. The findings include clear signs of direct gunfire at point-blank range and bodies crushed beneath Israeli tank tracks. What were the Israelis doing to these prisoners in prison? One man, Mohammed Ismail Shabat, was found with marks of hanging around his neck, his legs crushed by tank tracks. His brother said what hurt us the most was that his hands were tied and his body was covered with clear signs of torture. His mother cried, "Where is the world? All of our hostages returned tortured and broken." Both parties want you to believe they're working for the people, but let's be honest, Washington is bought and paid for. Big corporations in Wall Street get bailed out while working Americans get left with higher prices, shrinking savings, and endless promises that never materialize. The system is corrupt, and when it breaks, they won't be the ones paying the price. We will. That's why I put my trust in something outside of their control. Physical gold and silver from American Hartford Gold. Precious metals are real, tangible, and they've held their value through every economic collapse in history. You can have them delivered straight to your home or secured in a tax-advantaged gold IRA. American Hartford Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of 5-star reviews. And right now, when you call and mention my name, Kim, you can get up to $15,000 in free silver with your purchase. So call 866-584-3884 or text Kim to 65532. That's 866-584-3884 or text Kim, K-I-M, to 65532. Don't wait for politicians to fix a system they benefit from. Protect yourself today. Photographs seen by The Guardian show victims blindfolded, their hands tied, and ropes fastened around their necks. So The Guardian did verify this. Whistleblowers who worked at Steve Timon described appalling conditions, saying, "I did witness a patient from Gaza being brought with a gunshot wound. He was blindfolded and handcuffed, naked as he arrived. These were patients captured in Gaza hospitals. They had limbs and infected wounds. They were moaning in pain. A detainee's hand had been amputated because the wrists had become gangrenous due to handcuffing wounds." A former detainee, a journalist, recounted, "They stripped me completely naked for 10 hours in the cold. Said I remained handcuffed and blindfolded for 100 days. Many died in detention. Others lost their minds. Some had limbs amputated. They suffered sexual and physical abuse. They brought dogs that urinated on us. When I asked why I had been arrested, they answered, 'We have killed all the journalists. They died once, but we brought you here and you will die 100 times.'" Physicians for Human Rights Israel stated the signs of torture and abuse found on the bodies are horrifying, yet sadly not surprising. And they urged an independent international investigation, citing an unprecedented number of Palestinians who had died in Israeli custody. Why is this not being reported on? I mean, good work to The Guardian for reporting on this. But where is this in the mainstream news? The only thing the mainstream news talks about is, where are the rest of the Israeli hostage bodies? Why isn't Hamas returning them? When Israel, by the way, controls a solid 53 to 58% still of Gaza, maybe the bodies are on their side of the yellow line. But instead, it's still return the bodies. And if you don't return the bodies, I mean, just terrible what is going on there. We're now just getting to the aftermath, right? I mean, now we're finally with the war. And this is what I think Israel was worried about. And this is what many people talked about, is that as soon as the war is over, we're going to start seeing what Israel really did. It's going to be worse than what we thought. And the fact that 135 bodies from a prison in Israel returned mutilated and tortured, that is what the Israelis were doing to the Palestinian prisoners. And now we have people are able to go on the ground in Gaza and see what they're seeing, the state of destruction. When Israel claimed they were making targeted strikes, just remember that Israel kept saying, we're doing targeted strikes. That's what we're doing. It's targeted strikes. These are precise. We're not committing a genocide. Really? Because the UN has been walking around now in Gaza, and this is what they're seeing.
So I'm just concluding 2 very full days in Gaza. Heavy days. The scale of the damage. Whole areas flattened, pulverized. Whole towns made into a wasteland. And we have a massive task ahead of us, but the people of Gaza are not overwhelmed, and we will not be overwhelmed by what lies ahead of us. We are scaling up the food delivery to try and reach 1 million meals a day. We will get hundreds of thousands of kids back into school. We will reopen the clinics and the health centers that I visited. We will get thousands of tents in for winter. We will get thousands of trucks on the road every week. We will do this. We must do this. We all want to see this ceasefire hold. People here have told me again and again, Khalas Harb, enough war. Let's put this behind us and let's rebuild. Let's make sure this peace plan sticks, and let's do that for the people here, for the people of the region, and for a sense of hope.
How can we have any hope?
Very full day.
How do we have any hope when Israel continues to violate the ceasefire agreement? 13 bodies were taken to hospitals yesterday. Why are Palestinians still being fired upon? 13 were taken to hospitals yesterday. So what is going on with that? And that is from Israel. That is the Israelis attacking the Palestinians. That's how many arrived. Israel is just not going to adhere to this ceasefire agreement. In the West Bank, a woman was bludgeoned to death by settlers. Just yesterday, 60 some odd olive trees were ripped up from West Bank property by settlers. Nothing is stopping. Israel is taking all the land and they're making sure of it. And they use their settlers rather than the IDF. They use settlers. They allow them to be armed. They have IDF soldiers surrounding them, protecting them while they go and do the dirty work. And they take the land from the Palestinians. There is no peace between Israel and Palestine because Israel will not allow it. And now look, maybe the Palestinians don't allow it either, but someone's got to start, and it has to start with Israel. Israel has to start because Israel is the one that claims to be the Western democracy. Israel is the one that claims to be holding up Judeo-Christian values in the Middle East. So Israel has to be the one to behave itself first. And then if Palestine keeps attacking and continues to attack, then we can all say, yep, it's the Palestinians. They're the ones who aren't being peaceful. But the onus is on Israel because they're taking our money, and they're taking our money under the pretense of they are the Western democracy and they're upholding Judeo-Christian values, whatever that is. And so it's on them to actually be the bigger people, but they're not. They're instead antagonizing and terrorizing the Palestinians and blaming them for being atrocious animals when they're the ones who returned 135 bodies with signs of egregious torture. And then here's what Trump has to say. And this is I want to show you this because of how ridiculous it is. He says, numerous of our now great allies in the Middle East and areas surrounding the Middle East have explicitly and strongly, with great enthusiasm, informed me that they would welcome the opportunity at my request to go into Gaza with a heavy force and straighten our Hamas. If Hamas continues to act badly in violation of their agreement with us, the love and spirit for the Middle East has not been seen like this in 1,000 years. It's a beautiful thing to behold. I told these countries and Israel, not yet. There is still hope that Hamas will do what is right. If they do not, an end to Hamas will be fast, furious, and brutal. I would like to thank all of those countries that called to help. Also, I'd like to thank the great and powerful country of Indonesia and its wonderful leader for all the help they have shown to give the Middle East and to the USA, to everyone. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yada, yada, yada. Fast, furious, and brutal. We already saw that for 2 years, and it didn't end Hamas. What else are you going to do? What more could you possibly do? Don't act like the Israeli military is so strong and so mighty that they could just go and take down Hamas in a way that is fast, furious, and brutal. No, it has been brutal, but it hasn't been fast, and they've done this. They've destroyed the entire place. I don't know what else you think you could do. I mean, that's one thing that makes this kind of comical. The second thing about this is, I think what Trump is doing, by trying to blame Hamas for violations of the ceasefire agreement, but we're not even really sure what he's pointing at. I mean, he's saying that, Hamas is going and killing their own. They're executing Palestinians. Okay, so since when have you cared? Syria, Al-Qaeda's going around executing Syrians, and since when did you care? No, instead you think that it's great that this guy's now in power, that Al-Qaeda's now in power in Syria because Assad's out. So since when do you care? So it's just an excuse. And I think the only reason why Trump is using this excuse is because he doesn't trust Israel. He doesn't trust Israel. There's a worry, a concern that that Netanyahu is not going to adhere to this ceasefire agreement. They've already shown that they're not. They're violating it every single day. Doesn't make the news every day, but they are violating it every day. So I think Trump and his cronies are sitting there thinking, well, shoot, we tried to make this peace agreement, but Netanyahu would just go rogue. And if he does, then what? If he goes rogue, we're going to have some cover. So the only cover they could think of is, well, we better start laying the groundwork for blaming it on Hamas. So just every day come out and say, Hamas better behave itself. Hamas is a problem. Hamas. And I'm not saying Hamas isn't doing stuff, but they're not breaking the ceasefire agreement. Executing their own is wrong, but it's actually not a violation of the ceasefire agreement. You have to stick to what is in the document. And it doesn't say you're not allowed to go after rival clans. You're not allowed to go after the rivals that were armed by Israel and paid by Israel. You're not allowed to do that. Of course they're going to do that. And it's not in the peace agreement. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I think all of this is just cover because I don't think the Trump administration trusts Netanyahu. I don't think the Trump administration trusts that they're going to do the right thing. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.